Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Zadov's Chess Channel, and welcome to a very special story. It's about our chess prodigy Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa. I've been wondering what's about Ramesh Babu, what he's doing, where is he playing, is he still sharp, is he still playing great chess, is he an attacker, is he a more positional player? I really wondered and I asked myself these questions, and the problem for Ramesh Babu is I think that he cannot play now this over-the-board tournament. There are not so many tournaments that are organized, and still Ramesh Babu has his rating, his rating is around 2608. I think if Ramesh Babu would have played now in the past year some tournaments, then Ramesh Babu would gain for sure some rating points. That's the bad thing because of this virus situation. There are not so many over-the-board tournaments, and still Ramesh Babu is written in chess history as the youngest grandmaster who gained the rating 2600 in chess history. I think it's still a great thing. But as I said, I think that in the past year, maybe Ramesh Babu would have gained at least 50, 60, maybe even 100 rating points if he would have played over the board chess. Still, it's a bad thing. We know that it's now very hard to organize some tournaments. We have seen also this candidates tournament that it has to be really well prepared. So it's really bad thing, especially for these young fellows like Ramesh Babu, for instance, also for Alireza. Although Alireza is playing now more and more this top grandmaster events, but still I think Ramesh Babu lost soul over a year. I think this year was really bad for Ramesh Babu. He would have gained, as I said, for sure at least some 50, 16 rating points. So still Ramesh Babu is, of course, in my opinion, maybe even the future world champion. We'll see what the future will bring to us. I've decided to show you a great gameplay by Ramesh Babu here with the black pieces against an international master from the USA, Alexander Ostrovsky. This game is very special. You see that although Ramesh Babu is not playing now this over-the-board tournaments, that he's still a great player, and I've decided to show a really sharp Trompovsky game. Beautiful chess game, and on chess.com I've found this game on chess.com. Ramesh Babu is rated around 3000 on this great chess website. So as I said, it's bad for over the board, but still Ramesh Babu is going to get his rating points. Believe me when I say it. We just have to be patient. Over the board tournaments will happen again, and then we're waiting to see how Ramesh Babu will improve in the future of his career. So let's check out now one game. It was really, I think, a beautiful game. And you see also the great style of Ramesh Babu. He's not scared. He is playing really sharp chess, attacking chess, really beautiful opening lines, and that's why I think this is a perfect example to show you how great still Ramesh Babu is. So here d4 played by Alexander Ostrovsky. Here we have and knight to f6 by Ramesh Babu, and we have now bishop to g5, the Trompovsky attack, sorry. So here to move bishop to g5, when I face the Trompovsky, I play most of the time the move knight to e4, and many times you'll see maybe the bishop to f4 line or even h5, h4 lines. But Ramesh Babu plays here a very calm game. He plays the move g6, and he's challenging his opponent immediately. Take if you want, but then I'm going to continue the game with the bishop pair, and that's exactly what happened. Bishop to f6, he takes f6, we have e3. Whenever you give up your bishop pair in an early stage of the game, then it's very important to build fortresses on that squares which that bishop covered. So now white has to build really compact position on dark squares, because white has given up the dark square bishop. Now e3, c3, knight to d2, maybe really closed compact setup. That's now the main goal of white. Here bishop to g7, we have g3 by Ostrovsky, we have castling by Pragg, and now we have bishop to g2, we have f5. f5 is very important because we're attacking now the light squares, and of course we want to develop our dark square bishop. Our dark square bishop is now our main strength. What we shouldn't allow is some kind of a messed up pawn structure. Now Ramesh Babu has the trouble, because if this pawn chain gets somehow split with h4, h5, maybe after g takes h5, you see, although you have 4 pawns here on that side, this pawn chain could be challenged. The main issue is also a potential c4 move, and then this space advantage that white can create on the queen side. So here Ramesh Babu found great ways. After the move knight to e2, he played here first the move d5, and he prepared now the move knight to d7, knight to f6, and now knight to e4. This is the path of the knight. We want to cement one of these pieces on the square e4, because if you play f3 in order to maybe kick away a potential outpost around the square e4, still you see, because the e file is opened, I just wanted to imagine the position after potential f3 in order to prevent this knight to e4 outpost. Then this rook to e8 is very dangerous. You see, then you have this weakness, the pawn on e3. That's of course as a long-term plan. This wasn't played in the game, but I wanted to show you also some strategies about this particular lines. So black needs now to build also this compact setups on light squares, but also attack the weak e4 square. So here castling, we have c6, knight to d2, knight to d7. Now Praggnanandhaa goes for this idea. We have c4. You see, white is playing also sharp game, attacks simply immediately the light squares, attacks simply the supporters of the square e4, because that's the square that we're targeting here from black's perspective. We have knight to f6, and now knight to f4. Here d takes c4 was played. It was a very necessary move, because you see now, let's see also a natural move what you can play, maybe rook to e8, but rook to e8 would be a mistake, because we can simply take c takes d5, knight to d5, maybe knight to d5, and then after c takes d5, you see we don't have anymore this potential outposts. Of course, our rook is very dangerous here, but now there is one problem. You have this isolated pawn on d5. White will simply proceed even with moves as knight to b1, knight to c3, and then queen to b3, attacking simply 3 times this weak pawn. We'll simply play rook to c1, occupying this open c file. I think from this point on, white could have a comfortable game. So really great stuff. Praggnanandhaa realized these ideas, and he played d takes c4. He didn't allow his opponent to trade off pawns on around the square d5. So here knight to c4, rook to e8. Now it's perfectly fine. We have rook to c1, and now h5. Here b4. Here Alexander Ostrovsky plays on this so-called minority attack. What he's trying to do is play a4 b5, getting use of course of this long diagonal of the light square bishop, splitting the pawn structure, trying to create some weaknesses, maybe targeting even the weak square here on the board. Is the weak c5 square, maybe occupying one of these knights on that square. And as I said, the minority attack is basically a strategy in chess in which you're maybe attacking with 2 of your pawns against your opponent's 3 pawns, but in order to create new weaknesses, and new weaknesses are always a weak pawn or a weak square. That's the main goal of this strategy of white. So bishop to h6. Praggnanandhaa attacks this very annoying knight on f4. This knight is centralized. It controls really all of these pawns here on the king side. We have now a knight to a5, and now bishop to f4. We have g takes f4. We have queen to e7, attacking further this weak e4 square. That's our main goal. As we said, we want to simply occupy that square on the board. And now a3. And now, although it seems it's a compact game for both sides, it seems so that it's an equalish position, I think from this point on Praggnanandhaa will show his great attacking skills. He'll show how this position still can be sharp, although it seems like a static position. And I always like to see in chess when we create dynamics out of seemingly static positions. Viswanathan Anand, for instance, was a great player when it comes to creating dynamics out of statics. Also, Vladimir Kramnik was, I think, such a player when we have sort of a blocked pawn structure, and then you create a sharp attack. So here, bishop to e6, Praggnanandhaa simply attacks further the d5 square, and also develops of course the light square bishop, very important thing. And now knight to b3 with preparations to play the move knight to c5. And that's the problem. That's the great part of white's attack. White has here a compact position on dark squares, and the potential c5, knight to c5 outpost can never be kicked away with the b6, because this bishop is very dangerous. So you have to still also play a blockade around the square d5. So now these 2 squares have to be protected by black, the weak square d5, and also attack the weak square e4. So these are the main targets here in the position. So here b5 would have been, I think, even a slightly better continuation for white, instead of this maneuver knight to b3, knight to c5, immediately attacking. Because in my opinion, when you play this minority attack, then you have to prove your strategy, then you have to continue to push pawns. After potential b5, you see we have already some madness on the queen side here, although it's an equal position, but I think this will be much tougher here for black to defend. So as I said, knight to b3 was played, bishop to d5. We have knight to c5, and now a5. Very important thing to split the pawn structure. Again, we creating new weaknesses. After knight to d3, we have 8 takes b4, 8 takes b4. You see, and now Praggnanandhaa has occupied the only open file on the board. Very good strategy here. Here the evaluation is now already better for black because of this knight maneuver of white. So as I said, b5 was simply the better continuation. Here we have rook to a3 by Praggnanandhaa. He's simply attacking the knight. The queen is a little bit stuck to the defense of the knight. Here bishop to d5 was played by Ostrovsky. Knight to e5 would be probably met with knight to e4. Here if you try f3, then you can play knight to d6, and still we can targeting even maybe here the weak c4 square. So as I said, we see also here the e3 is a weakness. The queen can sneak in here in the position. This pawn chain can also be broken with moves as g5. So it's again a very bad position. First you have to protect, of course, your weak e3 pawn, and then also we can, I think, in the continuation kick away this this knight from with the move f6. Maybe first played something like king to g7 and then f6, kicking away the knight. So okay, here in the game bishop to d5 was played. We have knight to d5, we have queen to d2, and now queen to e4 here by Praggnanandhaa. He attacks now the weak square that we've talked about. Again, I'm pointing out f3. As we said, if you play whenever you play this move f3, then you weaken the e3 pawn. That was the cool part about Ramesh Babu's Praggnanandhaa's pawn structure. We have now knight to e5, and now comes a very cool move f6. F6, it seems so that you can take out here the pawn, but actually it's not so, because you get king to f7 and the knight is trapped. You have maybe only one square. Here knight to h4, but then rook to g1 will happen and you're going to be checkmated. So this was a very tricky preparation here by Praggnanandhaa. F6, kicking with the knight, and this was a 3+0 game. So you see how fast Praggnanandhaa can calculate this position. He played here an immediate great counter attack against the knight. We have knight to c4 attacking the rook, but now rook to d3. You see this idea first to open the a file, getting the queen on this weak square, and then fixing these two pieces together that we activated. Now this is already a bad position here for white. In the game queen to c2 was played, and that was now a huge blunder, but actually it's very hard to see the best continuation here for white. You can maybe pause the video and try to see at least some kind of a defensive move, because every other move is simply losing. Try to see the best continuation for white. Still, it's a better position for black. That's not the point, but you have only one move to at least somehow to battle this position. After move rook to d3, here the best move is queen to a2, and the idea is after something like queen to f3, then to play knight to b6, at least forcing the trades of knights. You see now in this particular scenario that Ostrovsky played after the move queen to c2, how dangerous this knight would become, because after queen to c2, here Praggnanandhaa has a great move, queen to f3. If you take now the rook, that was the great preparation by Pragg. We have knight to f4. First you cannot take, and as you see, we're challenging here this checkmate. The checkmate possibilities here around the square g2, and the queen is also hanging on the third rank. So you could maybe try here, instead of this idea, rook from f to d1 in order to challenge the rook, but then you get again knight to f4. After e takes f4, you get rook to e2. That was also a great preparation. You see, although you can maybe lose the rook here, but you're getting checkmated with queen to f2. You would be probably forced to give up here the queen for the rook. So as I said, queen to f3, very cool move. So basically from this point on it's a game over because of this move queen to c2 by Ostrovsky. He should have played, as I said, queen to a2. That was the only move that prolonged the game. Rook from f2 e1, and now we have also the move h4. H4 is of course a preparation with the move h3 and then deliver checkmate on g2. So here h3 played by Ostrovsky. We have rook to c3 attacking the queen, queen to a2, and now Praggnanandhaa simply takes, rook takes c1, rook takes c1, and pause the video maybe and try to again see the best next move. Here first, pardon me, here queen to h3 was played. Here after the move knight to d6, now find the best next move here for white. Okay, it's of course a very nice tactic. Again, rook takes e3, we have f takes e3, queen to e3, queen takes c1. Okay, here Ostrovsky had some checks, but it's not a perpetual because Praggnanandhaa can hide here on a secure square on h5. Knight to d6 was played, but now it's time for Praggnanandhaa to get some checks here. Queen to d2, king to f3, queen to f4, and now Praggnanandhaa simply took out the queen. Here queen to h7 was played, but now after king to g5, very cool stuff. You see Praggnanandhaa has escape route. The king is perfectly fine, surrounded by its own pawns. Here the queen and the knight are very dangerous, so in this position Alexander Ostrovsky resigned. So as I said, I'm a little bit sad that no over the board tournaments are going on. I think this is simply bad for this prodigy players like Praggnanandhaa. He would have get, as I said, for sure some rating points, but okay, maybe he can get through it. We'll see when over the board tournaments will start again. I hope it will be very soon because we need in the improvement of Praggnanandhaa, we need the improvement of Alireza Firouzja, and also I've recently published one game by Abhimanyu Mishra. He was the youngest international master in chess history at the age of 10 only, so these guys really need this tournament in order to improve their rating. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this little story about our chess prodigy Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa. If you want to see some other content on my YouTube chess channel, check out my best chess games of all time series with the best chess games from the past. Here's the link, and you can also check out my commented chess games, the best chess games played by chess engines. Here's also the link, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.